When someone is manipulating you, you can get caught in their hall of mirrors and become confused, unsure whether you're even being manipulated. You feel lost in the maze the manipulator has built you, unable to see over the walls to realize it's even a maze. In this video, we're going to attempt to give you a thread to find your way out, like the Greek hero Theseus. But let's be real, under 10 minutes watching YouTube isn't going to dissolve the walls a manipulator has built inside your mind. It's up to you to follow the thread. By the way, manipulators can include bosses, girlfriends, parents, and even so-called friends. Some common signs of manipulation include gaslighting, which is when someone tries to make you doubt your own reality. For example, they might say things like, "You're imagining things," or "You're crazy." The term comes from the classic film noir Gaslight, in which a rich woman unwittingly marries a con artist who conspires to convince his wife she's going insane so he can commit her and grab her fortune. It's easy to start doubting your own perceptions and instincts when a skilled gaslighter goes to work on you. Name-calling. Manipulators can use insults or put-downs, and they are usually good at figuring out which ones will get under your skin because some part of you believes them. Master manipulators usually have an unhealthy need for control, often due to their own traumas and insecurities. Due to these insecurities, they themselves are often on high alert for slights and insults and are equally attuned to signs of vulnerability in others. They're often good at zeroing in on your Achilles heel, figuring out what you secretly fear is true about yourself and calling you that very thing. If you struggle with the belief that you are unattractive, they might make calculated comments about your looks. If status or success is your insecurity, they'll subtly insult you there. Financial abuse. The manipulator uses money to control you. In a work context, this can be illegal, such as threatening to withhold pay if you don't comply with some whim. In relationships, a big difference in earnings or wealth can easily prepare the ground for this kind of dysfunctional power game. Isolation. When someone tries to isolate you from friends and family, it's usually a sign of a controlling manipulator. If other people you're close to are a threat to this person, ask yourself what they're afraid of. Again, manipulation is usually connected to a need for control stemming from insecurities the manipulator is trying to compensate for. Emotional manipulation. Just as manipulators are often keenly aware of your insecurities, they can also have a warped emotional intelligence, picking up on your emotions in order to weaponize them. Manipulators are masters of guilt-tripping, shaming, emotional blackmail, and threats. Emotional manipulation can take many forms and can weaponize positive emotions as well as negative ones. Think of the person who always showers you with compliments and affection before they try to get something from you, or the boss who holds a touchy-feely team-building meeting right before mandating overtime, union busting, or laying a bunch of people off. Some of the worst bosses put the most effort into fake and crucially low perks for their underpaid, overworked employees. It's much cheaper to put a bunch of Costco junk food snacks and balloons in the break room every Friday than to actually pay you what you're worth. In relationships, a similar manipulation can revolve around fancy date nights, gifts, or even sex. When a partner deploys these carrots to string you along or paper over a conflict without really addressing it, they are acting just like the stingy, fake nice boss. It's sad, but all of us can fall into these manipulative patterns, even in our most intimate relationships. When you study these patterns and others that relationship experts or friends might point out to you, they can give you a reality check and help you confirm that, yes, you are being manipulated. Even if the manipulator is behaving this way not out of cold or malicious calculation, but unconsciously due to their own lack of self-development, if their behavior fits these patterns, it is indeed manipulation. When you recognize this, you're grabbing hold of the thread that will lead you out of the maze you have created in your mind, in which you can't decide if this relationship is totally messed up or if everything is fine. Once you get clarity, you can confront the Minotaur, the repressed aspects in yourself and the other person that caused this labyrinth of manipulation to be built in the first place. What does confronting the Minotaur look like? The first step might be to draw a line in the sand. Boundaries are important in any relationship, but with a manipulator, they are a critical line of defense. If you've been appeasing the other person, the first time you draw a line will likely be met with extreme pushback. The manipulator can sense their power being challenged, and like a mini tin pot dictator will often go straight to waving the nukes, accusing you of treason, and generally using shock and awe offense as their first line of defense. But this overreaction is often just bluster. Call their bluff, remain stoic, stay calm, and stay on the high ground. Observe how they react dispassionately. Next, you must be prepared to enforce the boundaries you've set down. If you've told them you won't tolerate snarky comments about your appearance, your family, your career prospects, or whatever the sore spot is they always harp on, you need to develop the muscle of walking away and refusing to engage when they start to needle you again. If you find this prospect terrifying, then you need to practice decatastrophizing. The ancient Stoics didn't have the psychological jargon, but they did this all the time. By visualizing the worst possible outcome, the manipulator leaves you, fires you, hits you, etc., and visualizing yourself surviving that outcome in as much detail as possible, you will realize that your life won't actually be over, and in fact would likely improve if this person had the dreaded blow-up and exited your life stage left. Not such a catastrophe after all, hence why we call this exercise decatastrophizing. Suddenly, you might find you have the courage to act, to stand up for yourself, and to lay down the law with the manipulator. By the way, the Stoics must have thought decatastrophizing was too easy to say, because they called this ancient life hack futurorum malorum premeditatio, thinking about a bad future in advance. Easier done than said, so go ahead and do it. Of course, in most situations, the catastrophic blow-up doesn't actually happen. On the opposite extreme, you might both come to a transformative new understanding of how your dynamic has become unhealthy. You might have it all out, resolve to do better, and then follow through on that resolve. Or more likely, it'll be somewhere between the catastrophic and the ideal outcome. The other person may back down or apologize, only to relapse into old behaviors. Your boundaries may have to be drawn again and again. You might go through multiple cycles of doubting whether you can make it work, whether they will even cease their manipulative behavior, and you might discover ways you can adapt and work around this tendency in them. Let's say your significant other has a tendency to guilt trip you about your hobbies or friendships that don't include them. They try to separate you from other friends by complaining that you neglect your relationship. You may find you can live with it or even get the behavior to die down without conflict by finding ways to reassure them and address the underlying insecurity that you don't care about your relationship, and by refusing to be drawn into a power struggle over how you spend your time. You might also take the high road by treating them the way you'd like to be treated, actively supporting their hobbies and friendships that don't include you. If that doesn't work, you can address the issue explicitly, affirming their desire to spend more time as a couple, and then firmly asserting the importance of, say, your guys' poker night or your obsession with learning jujitsu. Sometimes, all it takes to put the kibosh on manipulative behavior is to take the role of a calming adult with a child having a tantrum. This doesn't mean to patronize the other person, but rather to soothe and address the underlying insecurity that's driving them to manipulate, while refusing to be drawn into whatever power game they're trying to play. But remember, the more extreme and persistent the manipulative behavior, the more you should ask yourself whether it's worth your time trying to put this relationship back on track. Sometimes you just have to get yourself to a place where you can walk away without rancor, knowing you did your part. It's not your job to fix anybody else, and at the end of the day, they have to do the work to address whatever it is that makes them manipulate. You can be the adult in the situation, but you can't do their growing up for them.